Hi, I'm going to talk to you about getting a business loan today. And the secret to my approach to getting a business loan, anybody can borrow money. The secret is being able to borrow it with very little money down, very little collateral, and without signing your life away. I'm doing 6 10-minute videos. This one is called Borrowing Money. I'm doing this as a favor to my good friend Beryl Walk, who on Tuesday turned 82. I would suggest you look at his website, Beryl, W-O-L-K, Walk, and you get familiar with his terrific material in home-based business. For the last 35 years, I've operated a home-based business called CEO Clubs, www.ceoclubs.org, and before that, though, I was very active in the business of home-based businesses and writing business plans, raising money, raising capital. And I wrote 26 books on that topic, and I got a few of them right here on my right. And the one I'm going to talk to you about in this little 10-minute video is how to borrow money and give you some good ideas. The bad news is in 10 minutes I'm not going to give you invaluable advice. It's just not possible. The good news, I'm going to give you a few resources that you're going to find very helpful. On my website for many years, 2 terrific resources you'll love, and they're free. And that website, ceoclubs.org, has 20 tips on how to be the bank's best customer, as well as a paper, an article written on how to borrow money without signing your life away. And when you're starting your own business, sooner or later you're going to have to face the issue of writing a business plan. And certainly if you deal with a bank or a lender or a community creditor or anybody, they're going to ask you for a business plan. So be sure to look at my other tapes on writing a business plan, because you're going to need it in all cases. And the good news is maybe you're lucky and you got a good business and it never has to borrow money. In fact, when I wrote the book, How to Borrow Money, the person said to me, many people actually, that that's an easy book to write, How to Borrow Money. He says, you really have to write the book, How to Pay Back the Bank Loan. And the bad news is nobody would ever buy that book. And among my books that have been bestsellers, this one, How to Get a Business Loan Without Signing Your Life Away, it really has not been a popular book, probably sold in the vicinity of 50,000 copies, whereas the business plan information is sold in excess of 1 million. But the information is useful, and I'm going to try to give you a few tips to help you to borrow money successfully. First important tip, never pick a bank. Always pick a banker. Really doesn't make any difference the size of the bank, the location. Where all the difference is made is in the individual you're dealing with, because each of them has a discretionary limit. And your job is to make the banker your best friend. The person you borrow from has to be even a better friend than somebody in your family or someone that's your close best friend at your wedding. And I'm going to give you a few things that bankers love and don't love, and you've got to recognize those things in your negotiation with bankers to borrow money from your home-based business. It's never possible to give a banker too much information. They love information. Put them on your newsletter list, put them on your email list, put them on anything that you're sending in the way of information. The only thing bankers ever complain about is they complain specifically about lack of information. They are always frightened if a month goes by and they don't hear from you. So stay in close touch with your banker. Keep them informed. Socialize and be active with them out of cycle for a loan request. Nothing a banker hates worse than once a year you got to renew your loan. You call him and you want to have lunch because he knows why you want to have lunch. You just basically want to renew your loan. Stay in touch out of cycle for a loan request. Let me mention 2 other great resources on that website. One is I've got a checklist that I love for a real estate loan, because whenever you go for a real estate loan, it seems that you never have all the documents you need. And they send you back to get this notarized, they send you back for a deed, they send you back for something, and it's about a 5-visit loan. But if you take that checklist for a real estate loan, you'll find it terrifically helpful. Your board of directors has to issue a document that says you're authorized to borrow money, etc. So that's free on the web. The other thing I should mention is that the Small Business Administration, the SBA, has a terrific loan program. The United States is very lucky to have an agency like the Small Business Administration. Over many, many years, they have lent money to CEOs and entrepreneurs for businesses that really a traditional bank would never do. Now don't be confused. The SBA never, or seldom, ever lends money directly. They almost always work through a bank and give the bank a guarantee on the loan. So the bank's only might be at risk at 20% of the loan, or 10% of the loan, depending on the nature of the guarantee. They do have limits and they do have lots of rules, and you certainly want to find a bank in your area. And most of the lending in business comes out of banks, even though we've got these other categories I mentioned. You want to find a bank that does SBA loans frequently, an SBA preferred lender. The big banks are almost always SBA preferred lenders, but little banks are not necessarily. And you really don't want to waste time with someone who's not doing sequentially many SBA loans, because it's an uphill battle. You really want to switch to a bank that has that capability. I forget the definition now of what they call a small business, and I forget the upper limit on the SBA loan. But you can find that out in local. So let me give you a couple other ideas. Always remember, dress up for your banker and down for your lawyer. I hope you always remember that. You never really want to go into the banker looking unshaven or not at your best, because the banker has got to be your best friend, and it will be a good colleague for your business. And it's always terrific if you and the banker have an independent relationship from just the business. Now, I want to mention a couple things about home-based businesses being different than other businesses. If you're operating out of your home, don't be ashamed of that. I have operated out of my home since I started the CEO clubs, 1977. So I guess I'm about 34 years running out of my home. You're seeing this in my living room, in my home, and if you're operating out of your home, you want to have your banker come visit you at your home. You don't always want to just meet at the neutral third-party restaurant, or always just meet at the bank, because the banker knows you're operating on a home-based business and not a giant business in another town. Remember, you're really not borrowing money. What you're doing is you're seeking advice. And always give the banker the option to give you some advice. If you got a decision to make, get the banker's opinion before you make the decision. Keep in mind the little principle that first, you never borrow money when you need it. You only borrow money when you don't need it. So one of the principles there is go take a $25,000 loan, keep it 25 days before it's due, and repay it. And you'll pay the interest, 10% interest for 1 month out of 12 is 1% interest. It's $250 or $500, whatever it is you have to pay. That's the cheapest form of good relations you can ever have with the bank. And you know what a banker really likes? How you can make a banker a terrific friend? Bankers like good depositors. If you got a friend who's a CD at Bank A or something at Bank B, you want to refer and have in your file letters that you have referred these 3 people to the bank. That's terrific. Banks don't ever throw away letters. Unlike normal companies, whenever you send the bank a letter, they keep it, they time date stamp it, and they put it in your file. And as you and I know, bankers change jobs once a year. So the chances of you keeping a banker at the same bank for 3 years, not too good, because that banker went across the street working for the other bank, then he crossed the street again working for a third bank. Of course, you're smart and you follow him, but you may still have some business at the original bank you worked at. And the new banker who comes into your account, the very first thing they do is they go in the back and they pull your file. And if your file has a sequence of 5 or 10 favorable letters, then you created a favorable impression of yourself. Now, the hard part about borrowing money is the part where they say, sure, we'll let your corporation borrow $50,000, and we want as collateral your home, your wife's signature, your husband's signature. In fact, why not get your mother or father's signature while we're at it? So any good banker knows that you can never over-collateralize a loan. You know, if all the loans in America were over-collateralized, we would never have got into the financial difficulties in the country. So bankers want as much collateral as they can get. And really it's your job as the operator of the ongoing business to minimize your exposure because you want flexibility. You don't want to be guaranteeing a bank loan over here and another bank loan over here and over, but no different than you borrowing individually. Now, the bad news with an SBA loan, which I mentioned, is that you won't avoid a personal guarantee on an SBA loan. It's the law, and you'll have to sign personally. Now, I'm going to give you a valuable tip that you'll also be able to get off my website, and I'm really kind of excited. It's a relatively new company headquartered in Middletown, Connecticut, close to my hometown. And it's called Asterisk Financial. I read it by Riccatelli, who's the CEO. What Asterisk does as a business, it's an insurance company. It will give you a personal loan guarantee. And what that says is that you pay insurance fees to them annually, and they guarantee the loan risk that you're at up to 50 or 70%, depending on the terms of the loan. So in other words, if you borrow $50,000 and the deal goes bad and you lose the money, you could turn to your guarantor, your insurance company, and get up to $25,000 or $30,000 back out of your loss. And boy, I'll tell you, it sure is sweet, because a lot of business loans go bad. And even at the beginning day when you borrow the money, you think you're in great shape, and you think everything's going to be going fine. But that's why some loans go bad, because things don't go quite as you expect, or they don't follow the business plan that you laid out earlier. You may find the guarantee useful. Now, remember, I gave you some resources to go to, and I'd go to the bookstore, I'd do my Google searches, and get as much information as you can about borrowing money before you walk into the bank. You never really want to walk in and be unprepared. You want to be a crisp customer, knows what he's doing, he's got all the forms understood and filled out, has read the bank's annual report, knows all about the bank's history, knows the bank had a bad deal on a real estate project over here and this project over there, and knows the history of the bank and is familiar with the bank. In fact, I recommend you go to some of those bank seminars that they offer. You know, banks almost always try to get revenue by running seminars. And their seminars on average are just terrible. But you don't have to go at 8 o'clock in the morning and stay to 5 o'clock at night. Go around 11 o'clock, 11:30, just before lunch. Stay for lunch, meet some bankers, one of the greatest ways to meet a banker. And then, you know, get right out of there after lunch. You don't have to sit through whatever that topic of that is. And the best way I've ever found to find a good banker, if you're just starting out, it's like anything else you're doing, looking for a doctor or a CPA, is get a referral. Get a referral from a trusted, reliable friend who you know has a good business reputation. Ask him or her what their best relationship is with the banker, and ask if they would introduce you. You never really want to go in cold and start at the front desk and work your way back to a so-called loan officer. You always want to come in for a referral. Of course, it's better if you come in through the financial end of a CPA. Those are the best, or a lawyer, or some other professional. But my experience is that you're almost always better to come in referral of an operating CEO who's doing well, and that you can use as a lever to give you started in the borrowing process. Now, the bad news is I gave you tips on how to borrow money. You notice I gave you no advice on how to pay it back. that's an operating tape you want to look at later. Want to wish you the best luck, and I hope the 10 minutes was